Conspiracy or no conspiracy, Oswald or no Oswald, if the Secret Service would have done their normal professional duty, President Kennedy lives. That's not Monday morning quarterbacking. That's not hindsight with rose-colored glasses, 2020. It's the God's honest truth. There's a reason that Presidents FDR, Truman, Eisenhower, and Kennedy before the assassination lived. It wasn't from rubbing a rabbit's foot. It was because of the presidential protection these presidents received. During my many years, actually decades, of research into the Secret Service and interviewing many of these agents, the vast majority of the Kennedy detail that was still living when I contacted them in the 90s and into the millennium, well, I uncovered many things. First major discovery is President Kennedy did not order the agents off the car and did not interfere with their actions at all. The agents all told me that President Kennedy was a very nice man, never interfered with them. So this whole mythology that President Kennedy had a rendezvous with death and ordered them off the car is not true. So the buck stops with the Secret Service. Another major discovery of mine is that the Secret Service was the only boss the President of the United States had. Many people would naturally assume, well, the president's in charge. He's the commander of, the free world and whatnot. And he's the one, he's the leader of the free world, commander-in-chief. He's the one who's in charge. But no, when it comes to his protection, the Secret Service was boss. This is by law. In fact, Presidents Truman, Johnson, and Clinton are all on public record stating the Secret Service was their boss when it came to that. In fact, before the assassination, JFK's first chief of the Secret Service said as much, that when it came to presidential security, the president knew that we were in charge. And that's what actually the special in charge of the FDR detail, Mike Riley, also said that he knew that FDR knew that they, the Secret Service, were in charge of his protection. Another major discovery of mine was many people thought this has only happened after the assassination as a result of the assassination. But it turns out that building rooftops were normally guarded during the FDR, Truman, Eisenhower, and yes, the JFK eras. I uncovered many news articles, even black and white video of newsmen talking, and Secret Service interviews that confirm this. It's a slam dunk. And even in Secret Service books written before the assassination, they all say the same thing. Whenever the president was in a parade, a motorcade, building rooftops were guarded either by the police and or agents. In addition, police lined the streets and faced the crowd, oftentimes augmented by the military. Again, they were there to face the crowd, not the dignitaries in the motorcade. And he also had many undercover police working throughout the crowds. So again, in the pre-9/11 world we live in with terrorism and assault weapons and whatnot, yeah, maybe the protection back then wasn't as good as it is now, but for the time, the 40s, 50s, and 60s, it was very good indeed. And again, the major threats they had to worry about were pistols and rifles. So these men were there to do their duty, and they were guarding parade rooftops, and they were often on or near the back of the car. Many times the bubble top was on the car in a partial or full form. You had many motorcycles surrounding the car. You had a proper monitoring of threats. Again, you had the police line streets facing the crowd. You had the military augmenting them. You had a good speed of the cars themselves. You had the military aid in the car. You had a physician. It was close by the presidential limousine in case of trouble. All these things didn't happen when President Kennedy was assassinated. In fact, one of the true mysteries of assassination is several witnesses, including a Dallas police officer, said that they encountered Secret Service agents of mysterious repute after the assassination behind the knoll, when officially no Secret Service agents were stationed there. They were only riding in the motorcade. So who were these men? Some people think they were gunmen, spotters, CIA agents. It could very well be that they were real Secret Service agents. Yes, real Secret Service agents. This was covered up after the assassination, either because it was further protection for the president and somehow they let the president be killed, or something more sinister. And finally, 9 agents, including 4 that rode on the Secret Service follow car. And those were Clint Hill, Paul Landis, Jack Reedy, and Glenn Bennett. Drank the night before and the morning of the assassination. This is against common sense, regulations. It was grounds for dismissal from the Secret Service.